Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Okay, I know it's a little late. Well, I have a good excuse. You know why I have an excuse. I couldn't get the episode out on Sunday because Pheasant Fest was just wrapping up. I drove home all day Monday. So, hey, guess what? You're getting it on Tuesday. I can't thank you enough for all the people that came by at Pheasant Fest. Besides all the sponsors being there. Like, literally, in fact, you have to listen to the whole intro this time. I'm going to make it short. I know. But I have a redaction, okay? I think that's the right word for it. But the title sponsor of this show and most of your hunts and excursions, OnX. I'm a little mad at OnX. They had an after party at the Ramkota Best Western on Friday night, 9 p.m. So by the time we got done wrapping up the show at 7 and going out to eat dinner, we went right to the after party. Free Leinenkugel, live band. Apparently, that's why my head hurt on Saturday. That's why my knee hurts still today, because who went out on the dance floor? Yeah, the old guy. And the Leinenkugel beer was free, like free. Not like, and you didn't have to wait in line. I mean, there was 5 bars. All you had to do is go just look in a corner like, oh, that bar's open. So thank you to OnX for everything they do for us and for the after party. But thanks for the hangover as well to all my friends at OnX. I had the Gunner Kennels, food bowls, and crates all on the booth there with us. People came and got to see them, entered a giveaway. There's going to be some winners there. I stopped by Boss Ammo on the way down. And, Boss Ammo, I said in the last couple intros, they weren't going to be there. And I'm like, well, that's so stupid. They're 2 hours south of me. So I stopped by and I got a bunch of stickers and hats and a banner. So, in essence, Boss was there vicariously through us at the HDP booth. Garmin, Rayhan, Patrick, Matt, right across from us, right across from the aisle. They're coming back to Pheasant Fest. Great to see those guys again. That booth you couldn't not stop by because all the newest Garmin stuff is out there, from watches to transmitters to the new collars. It's ridiculous. I don't know why anybody would use anything besides a Garmin. I guess probably because you don't listen to this show, but then you're listening to this intro, so I guess I'm being redundant. My buddy, his name is Buddy, from W was there. The principal of W was there, along with Brian from Aldergrove Dog Boxes, who knocked it out of the park. They shared a booth. Brian has a new dog box out just for the Upland Hunter and custom made, but these are a little more cookie cutter. They'll fit almost everybody's needs. But if you need something that's custom, like the one that was in the back of the 3 of them, custom made for the back of my 4-wheel camper. Well, if you were at Pheasant Fest, you saw it because 4-wheel campers was there in mass. So we had Denny and Herman were there, and Denny's a dealer out in Wyoming, out in Jackson Hole and in Bozeman. He came with his model called the Hawk. So that's the camper that sits in your truck just like a little bitty thing, and it pops up just like mine. But it's all set up for living. It's stove, sink, all that kind of stuff. And my Model M was there. And I'll tell you what, even on Sunday, there was more people stopping by to look at those 2 pop-up campers from 4-wheel camper than there was coming over to the HDP booth. That's the truth. I didn't feel bad, though, because it made me feel like we were busy. K9 Athlete was right down, Ben and the crew were right down the aisle from us. We watched them bring in more 5-gallon jugs of water to make what we call recovery cocktails for people, because there's a lot of drinking going on there. If you don't know this, I didn't say it in the last one, but at Pheasant Fest, they've got bars around the area. You can walk around there's a bunch of different beer for sale, drinks for sale, and you can walk around the show and have a toddy. So it was a good thing that canine athlete and wilderness athletes were there because a lot of people probably use that hydrate and recover, and they were giving away free samples. My friends Kate and Hayden from Marshware were in our booth showing some samples. They weren't selling anything, but giving away some stuff, giving away some coupon codes, collecting some QR codes for a great discount. Marshware is going to be, I didn't realize how big Marshware was. Like literally, we went in negotiations this year to jump onto podcasts as a sponsor. I thought it was just this little teeny company stuff. No, it's been around for a while. They've got the coolest stuff. They really do. And of course, Purina was there. They're always there. They're always on the bird dog stage. They always have the best trainers, seminars, Q&As that you can get to. It wouldn't be Pheasant Fest if Purina wasn't there. The Upland Institute, which of course is me, we were there, of course, in our booth. Trent and Heather took care of Trent took care of all the all the Q&A for questions on the course, and Heather just keeps the whole thing running like a clock. She's like, make sure this is done, that's done, this is done, you're here, you're there. We couldn't do it without Trent and Heather. My friend Bill McPhail was there, flew in from Boise, helped me set up on Wednesday and Thursday because I had to be in early with the truck. My oldest friend in the world, Roof, was there on Friday, Saturday, a little bit of Sunday, adding some comic relief to everything. And Jack Butler was there to show you gumleaf boots, and I don't think I'm allowed to say it yet, but the people who came to Pheasant Fest saw it, so you'll hear more about that soon. But my redaction, oh wait, I'm not ready for the redaction yet. Mossberg was there. We collected, we had a QR code for a giveaway. So we're giving away a Mossberg 410, I think it's the black label or gold label. I'm sorry, Matt, if I screwed that up. Beautiful 410 shotgun. Really nice. I've got one. They gave me one earlier this year. I'm still learning how to shoot it. It's so light that I was over swinging on my clay targets. I've not yet to knock a feathered bird down with it yet, but that will come this year, probably in training season first. So they were there. So like if you came to our booth and you entered for the gun, you went to their booth, they'd send you. It was like old home week. And so 2 weeks ago, I said, I said that Walton's and Boss weren't going to be there. So Boss was there vicariously by giving me some stuff to show everybody. But Walton's was there, not making food for you, but I mean, Mr. Walton, Brett was there. He came up to the booth and gave me a friendly jab that says, it's funny when my sponsors actually do listen to some of the episodes because truthfully, they don't have the time. And Brett came right up to me and said, I heard you say that Walton's wasn't here. Well, guess what? I'm here. Him and his wife came through. They walked the show for a couple days. And he's just, I cannot wait. I got a bird hunting report from him, and I don't want to say I'm never glad that I didn't go on a trip, but it turns out it wouldn't have been a birdless trip, but we just had a great conversation. So thanks, Brett, for coming by. I'll get down there. We're still going to do some stuff in the kitchen at Walton's, and I am going to be in your backyard next year. So, next year, I think everybody knows this now. Pheasant Fest is going to be, I think, the second weekend in March, and it's going to be in Kansas City. Yeah, Kansas City, here I come. Oh, you don't want me to sing. So thank you to Walton's, of course, one of our full-on, full-board, unbelievable sponsors that can make any kitchen a wild game kitchen. I mean, you could use domestic meat, of course, but it's more fun to cook those things that we shoot in the field, give them that little extra care and that little extra love, and you can find every product in the Walton's catalog to take care of your wild game kitchen. That's it. How was that? That was not bad. What was that, 8 minutes, 53 seconds? Come on now. Give me a break. That wasn't terrible, right? Oh, anyway, again, I want to thank everybody personally that came through. I don't have a list of names. Of course, I meet more people all the time. I met my oldest patron once again. I met, I have to give Stuart a shout out. Stuart he comes to every Pheasant Fest, and he always gives me a gift, like a little gift. This year was a book and a little quail pin. Stuart, hats off to you. You are a conservation guy that loves this whole loves this whole genre, as everybody did that came by Pheasant Fest, came by the booth. It was just a fantastic, as you can tell, I got to shorten this intro just because my voice is gone from talking. Yeah. And I found some really great guests coming up that stopped by the booth or were referred to me by other friends. There's more to come. But here's this episode with my friend Mike Carter in Virginia. We had a great conversation about how he knocks out the grouse in Virginia and West Virginia, where most of you don't go. There's a reason for it. You have to have legs like a billy goat, or you have to have some really good dogs like Mike does. Anyway, I love you guys, I love you girls, and I love you Pheasant Fest attendees just a smidgen more. There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. My friend, I consider him a friend, although we don't see each other very much. We talk at least once a year, and he's been on the podcast a couple times. And he is the guy that when I get those emails, which are on a pretty consistent basis, where can I hunt for grouse in the Appalachian? I said, just go back and listen to my episodes with Mike Carpenter. And I met Mike through a mutual friend, Chip Parkins, and Mike had at that point 2 French Brittany's, and I think we only hunted one day, maybe another day, another time, but you and I and Chip hunted one day, and I was not mad at you, but I was envious because between Chip and I, we might have one good hip joint or knee joint left, right? And Mike, who was you weren't a competition mountain biker, but you were an active mountain biker.
Yeah, raced a little bit, when I was younger, and still actually raced in the old man category. But
yeah,
it's a fun way to get out there.
You had the long your inseam is long. You're in great shape, and I watched you go up and down some side hills because your dog took off down toward a laurel patch or a hollow, and I'm gonna go check it out. And Chip and I looked at you like, how in the hell is he gonna get up that hill? But we became fast friends just because we love bird dogs and grouse hunting, and you
helped me with some training, in my second Brittany, one of the first French Brittany's I got. So it was a good connection once we made it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter how much you see somebody in the bird dog world. It's like you just stay at that level of like, oh, that's a buddy. But I'm prefacing this a lot because I would love people to go back and listen to the other episodes. You took an approach to hunting in an area that would never be called a destination grouse hunting area, right? I mean,
that's true. Yeah,
we're not hot spotting it, but it's the Appalachian Mountains outside of, anywhere from Harrisonburg,
Winchester, Harrisonburg, all the way down to like Blacksburg, the entire state. There's basically a mountain range,
right? And you're telling us how many birds you're seeing, and I'm like, well, where are you finding these? And I remember you got into your degree work in school and did I get it right? Cartography?
Yeah, cartography, good memory.
Good. Yeah, I always remember that. And you were using Google Maps to investigate the backside of hills that nobody would know about. And
well, before they were so accessible too, I think we did our first podcast shoot probably 8 years ago or something. It was a while now.
Yeah, I'm in the 10th year, and I think you were in my first year. Yeah.
And now Onyx makes it seem so quick and easy to pull these layers and see your map and see your overlay of which logging cuts or what age class. Well, 10 years ago, you had to go to the National Forest website, understand what a KMZ or whatever file format was, would it load into Google? And it was like step by step by step, and the files would be so big you'd have to resize them to even get on your computer, much less put it on something as simple as your phone and just walk around. So it's been awesome to see that change, but a lot more people have gotten in the game because of it, and hopefully a lot of people who've listened to this and heard some of the ideas, and at least the concepts, and once they simplified the software, you took advantage of it.
Yeah, when you told me all your stuff you were doing, you didn't talk about, well, my lack of computer prowess is well known, but to tell me that I would have to go download something and then change the file size, I'm already going to take a trip out west. I'm not even going to George Washington National Forest.
Right.
So kind of a recap. you were shooting more grouse, and this could be complete bullshit. You were shooting more grouse in a year in an area that is not known for grouse hunting, at least a destination spot. There's certainly a contingency of people, you probably run into them, that are loyal to taking a walk up in the hills. But you pretty much consistently, because of your mapping, because of your GUR and your dogs, and it's the whole thing. And I know you travel. You used to travel up. You've been to the UP. You go out west, but you make the best of a spot that's really the only problem with that spot is it's so big, right?
Big, and it's hard as heck to walk around in.
Yeah.
It's so steep. I think that's something that doesn't get recognized is mountains aren't totally huge. I mean, sometimes you do have a 2,000-foot elevation gain from valley floor to mountaintop, maybe 3, but sometimes you got to cover 600-800 in one 30% pitch or slope, or and there are birds on that, or your bird just flew down there, or 3 birds just flew down there, and maybe you go down there, and then how do you get back up? And so that's one of the biggest challenges, just the topography, but there are plenty of birds around. I think some of those good years we're killing 15 to 20, and if you hit some more shots, maybe you get even more. So plenty of numbers if you are willing to hunt. I think we talked before we got on here that I'm getting close to 45 days, so that's a lot of bird hunting days. So the numbers add up. You multiply 2 times 40, that's 80 birds right there. So it adds up. We have days where we definitely flush out west type numbers, but most days if you see 6 birds, that's a great day.
Right.
Which I feel that way, because usually 6 birds is 6 miles. And a lot of times when we talk about that mileage, it's, you walk 6 miles, but you're really only in good cover for 2 or 3 miles, because you had to get to the top of the ridge, or you had to get 3 miles past this gate. And that's a lot of the nuance of finding and efficiently hunting and finding birds.
So trying to picture, I know we went to a couple spots, and Chip and I frequent the same spots and a few other ones I've been to. What's the face of, is anything changed? Again, I'm using this as a broad term in the George Washington, because, we're both RGS members, and, I know they're doing some more logging and they're doing more projects. And I think things are, if they're slowly turning their boat, but where I went and where you go, are you still dealing with just
I'll say the mountain, Narrowback Mountain is done. Those cuts we hunted back then, those were cuts that were put in 1997, 1999, and they were good even 20 years later. But now we're 30 years later, and now there's just not any cover per se. There's no habitat. Yeah. And they are, because they were good for 20 years, the word got out. A lot of people know about it. That's why I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Right.
The app, the call, but there's a lot of aged out cuts. The positive is the Forest Service did start cutting again. Well, not, they're enabling the cutting. Other outside entities are doing the cutting, but in around 2010, 2000 teens. So there are a lot of newer cuts on the ground. A few of them starting to come of age. There was a big devoid of that stuff. Now I'll still peruse a cut from that age, because what's neat about the Appalachians is because of that topography and the way that stuff laid out in south exposed or north exposed, it'll still hold birds even at that age, because there'll be a laurel patch that is on the edge where it stayed open, and it didn't come back as much with the hardwoods, or they slashed down some of the other stuff. So you'll still find a couple of spots that hold birds, but not like they were when we hunted them 10 years ago. And 2 or 3 birds per cut wasn't a crazy thing to expect.
Right.
At least one. But now you hunt that whole mountain and you might see 1 or 2. They're still around. That's the beauty of the Appalachian grouse, is they're never gonna be extinct. There's too much. There's no way. There's so much topography that we're never even gonna hunt. We can get to that too, because that's my new thing, is finding birds that have never seen a human.
I would bet if anybody's doing that, it's you, right?
Yeah, that's one of my passions, is just going out and hunting completely off the grid, on ridges or on in zones that no one has hunted, no trail, and just trying to find some birds that haven't been messed with. And they haven't been messed with. Last Wednesday, I got out onto a ridge in West Virginia, not too far from the Virginia border, because West Virginia is still open through next Thursday. And
Right.
three birds in one spot on the side of the mountain.
Wow.
And I would doubt those birds have seen a human maybe ever. Definitely not this season, to be still grouped up like that this late. It's pretty awesome.
Like, my experience with birds that haven't seen humans would only be a time I went to Canada. And had we had we not had two young dogs who decided to become flushing dogs, right? I mean, they I would have said, and we did get a lot of birds, that it was just like a 3 mile walk down a logging cut. Um, but what I noticed was there'd be times when we would see another bird just walking, and the bird's like, well, I don't know who you are. There's no
What is that guy?
there's no four-legged animal after me because my four-legged animal is 300 yards away. Are you finding birds that are like going to the tree on a flush, or are you
That's exactly what just happened on this issue. It was what we've been doing is, these ridges are steep,
right?
and usually there's a flat top ish, maybe 30 yards wide. If you're lucky, maybe 400 yards wide, sometimes 5 yards wide. I'm talking
Right.
rock. And then usually there's a drop in a terrace. And on the south and southeast side of those ridges, there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of ice damage because off the top of that hill. And it's usually steep. There's usually a sub terrace as you get down to the bottom. I doubt if anybody's looking at my pictures here. I mean, my hand gestures, but and you can kind of surf that edge. It's hard walking. You're walking on a side slope. You better have some 10-inch boots with a heavy lug.
Yeah.
But they get there and they hide from the wind there, because the wind always travels out of the west here. And I'm down there, Trotter finds a point. I scramble down the hill. It literally took me like minutes to get down there. He's still sort of pointing. He kind of moves because it's so steep. And I'm like, what the hell? A bird flushes up into the tree. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to shoot that thing right out of the tree because I can't hit shit right now. I'm like getting ready to shoot it, and it flies again. I actually knock it down. So I'm like, oh, I finally got a bird. Then it was a bit of a slump we were chatting about. So I go over there. Jasper is working on finding. I'm literally crawling because I had to get across this hillside. As I'm crawling, Ron, another bird flushes right there of this group of three. He was just hanging out. I'm crawling across the ground, and he flushes out from underneath the rhododendron as I'm going over there. I'm like, what the? It was awesome. So that was a rare group. And I'm not saying there's tons of birds in Virginia that have never seen humans, but there's so much terrain. I think our national forest has 1.8 million acres, and there's so many remote ridges at 3,000, 4,000 feet that if you're willing to give them a try and scramble some and drop your gun and fall down and you might see some birds, you might not,
Right.
that was, I think I saw three there, one more on that ridge. I ended up hiking 7 miles, and that was it. So if I hadn't seen that 3-pack in a single, that hunt might have been a bust. But lucky for me, I had a good dog who was willing to go down the hill and find a bird and wait for me to get down there.
Yeah.
Just as easy, I could have missed all those birds, and they're not there, and
but
gotta love your bird dog.
if now you're making me think of like quail. Like I know there's no quail in the valley anymore, but I always heard when I moved there, where my house is, where my neighbor said there used to be a covey on this fence line. There used to be a covey on that corner. With that mountain terrain and that specific cover that they need, I would think now that you have, that's a spot that, will you go back to that, or do you just always look for the next one? Because it seems like obviously they were there, they were unmolested.
Yeah, I'll go back next year, maybe.
Yeah.
It was an interesting discussion I had in my mind because it was a hard hunt. I fell down multiple times that day, stupidly by myself. There was a skip of snow on the ground. And it's definitely not one I'm going to go back to in 15 years when I'm a little less mobile, and so I respect that. And that's one of the things that drives me is talking to folks like you who have done these things. And I'm like, I got to take these opportunities while I got them, because I'll be hunting when I'm in 65, but I might not be hunting that hill,
not that spot,
not that spot. But I've got a date with a friend for another ridge just north of there that we want to do by the end of the year. We might not get to it. There's just a bunch of those ridges. And the worst case scenario is it's a long hike on the mountain with your dogs and your friend,
So that's not bad.
And that's how you have to look at it out here, which is a little different. But if you go enough, you're going to get the birds or you're going to see them. And, as a bird dog person, that's more important to me. We were talking a little bit about my younger pup, and that pup's he probably pointed 20 grouse this year, which is really awesome to see him come that far and be able to hold birds. Still ran over a couple that I want to give him a pass on, a full speed run over, but just awesome to see, awesome to be around that.
You say full speed run over, and I don't find that a fault, because everything's got to be right for the dog to know it. That dog is just seeking out cover and just happened to be a bird there, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
we as humans start did he
Right.
have an opportunity? And I get you said something about this new dog. What's your new dog's name?
Jasper Jet.
And you said dog hasn't seen a pen raised bird, hasn't been to a preserve.
Never.
Cut his eye teeth on, mountain grouse.
Yeah. And some woodcock. We have a few woodcock flight to come through. So,
I did find one woodcock up in the mountains one day. I was up there, but will you find them closer to the valley, or will they run that mountain?
they run the ridges pretty interestingly. West in the east side of Virginia, they're in your more traditional river habitat. Yeah. But up here, it's really weird. They'll get in low drainages up in the mountains, but they're still like to run the ridges or find dips in the ridges where there's like a low gap or a saddle or water. They're really seasonal. You catch them or you don't. There's absolutely no holdovers or no local birds.
Right.
So it's pretty neat. Actually, the spring flight is maybe I have more time to focus because I'm a grouse hound, so I don't really hunt woodcock if they're there, maybe we'll go to that spot. I don't really mess with them in that little hot window of late November, early November, late October, I mean. But the spring flight's awesome. And I have two spots that are pretty money. And that's where Jasper got some opportunity, which was like this spring. I thought he was going to be the worst bird dog ever. He ran over so many woodcock. I was he's never going to,
No, because, that's like not being able to hit a T-ball.
Yeah, that was bad. I was kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. Well, the grass is up and there's too much chlorophyll and the wind and he's running. He's so excited. But I think I don't know what it was, but he's doing well now. So,
well, maybe that's what helped too. When they trip over a bird and
there's no pressure in the spring to shoot it. You don't feel like you're hunting. You just go grab the dog, correct him, let him try again. So.
A friend of mine that I made in the valley, which, living there that many years, I made quite a few. He was, I don't know if he was on the board of QF or not, but he was involved with a chapter in Virginia. Communicated with me, and him and his wife came up to my house one night. We had a few drinks. They fell in love with my little cocker Taffy. They now have a cocker. And he just called me probably 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Maybe 5. And they have a spot, and this isn't hot spotting, but toward Danville, toward the Carolinas. It's certainly not the bottom of Virginia, because Virginia goes all the way to Tennessee.
Right.
But he says they have what they refer to as woodcock camp.
That's cool.
He says you got to hit it, but he said, boy, but when we hit it,
Yeah. Especially with a limit of 3, you're done. You're having whiskey by 2 p.m.
Yeah, a bad day.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I wouldn't mind an invite. He says, yeah, the problem is you might have to get here the day I tell you to come, because they actually have a spot where he would never call it good quail hunting, but they can get into some quail.
Oh, very nice.
Just so their camp is based around getting together with their friends. It just coincides sometimes with, oh my God, the woodcock stopped by our quail spot.
Right. And that's probably early January, I'm assuming, somewhere there. Where if we want the woodcock to fly here, it's first week of November. And you hear a lot about Canaan Valley being a destination woodcock spot. Same thing. Their first couple weeks of November, they're there as early as October. We hunted West Virginia opening weekend, and not at Canaan, but up in that same Appalachia plateau, up on the big mountain. And we saw woodcock, shot at some woodcock on opening weekend. So just cool how they fly different. I'd love to see exactly where those ridge runners are flying from and
Yeah.
to versus the seaside, the oceanside birds. So they're a neat bird. They're cool to watch.
Yeah, the one I did see up there one day, in fact, Bravo pointed it, and I was like, oh my God, because I was no way thinking woodcock. Just no,
Right.
right. And God help me, I shot at it and missed it because I don't think it was in season. You know,
Yeah, our seasons
but
are weird too. They break it up because we do have these 2 flights.
right. And I was just, but it's like it'd be like if a pheasant would have came out of there, I wouldn't have been more surprised, right? And luckily, it went through the cover and I missed. And the dog's like, looking around for it. And I was like, Chip and I looked at each other like, it was a woodcock, So I thought it was just the one woodcock that maybe got lost. But I had Ben Jones on, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, and we pulled up the map. And you see that map of the banded or the transmitted woodcock, and
Right.
yeah, they skate and skirt all those mountains and valleys. You just don't know where they're going to stop. And
Right. They have their spots. They've been stopping for millennia. And
yeah,
if you know where it is, awesome. Don't tell anyone.
no, exactly, exactly.
I like it more from a training perspective. I don't even hunt, like I said, it's more mainly because I'm a grouse hound, but I don't have that many spots that it's a sustainable hunt. And I'd rather have a spot to freshen up my dogs. My daughter just got a puppy. I'm so psyched to have a good spring spot to put pups on the ground and let them and freshen them up or keep them going. Although they're already here. We saw one last week. They're already coming back.
So are the robins back then too?
Haven't maybe I've heard a bunch of birds singing in the morning.
Yeah.
Haven't looked yet. Haven't really seen one yet, but the
That's
woodcock
how
are
we
already
tell
back.
in Michigan. And of course, we can get a little snow dump, but all of a sudden, not the first robin, but when you start seeing a bunch of robins in our yards, you will see somebody or you'll know somebody that's seeing some woodcock coming back. And that would
That's
be,
cool.
I would think next month, sometime next.
Which makes sense a little further north, but
Right, right. I wonder I guess one day I should really interview somebody who knows animals, like the history of all animals in this continent, because you'd think the woodcock would be something from the it's such a weird bird that it would have to be predating a grouse, but I don't know what's an older bird because
that's a cool concept.
the
I would
grouse
think
is really just kind of a snipe really that started wandering.
Yeah, woodcock look close enough to dinosaur to me that I'm going to give them the
Me
win
too.
on the old.
I'm giving it me too. I don't think I shot a handful this year. And it's not that I'm being like, oh, I don't need to shoot any woodcock. I just didn't hunt that much in Michigan and I wasn't hitting any because I'll take a plate full. We did get some up in the UP and the people I was with did the real traditional pluck them, whole body.
Nice.
We were nibbling every little nibble of meat that was it was good. It was people
You
kind of
take the time and do them right. They're good. And I love the legs. People always I get frustrated when people chuck the legs out. I'm like, I know it's a little bit of work, but that's the most delectable
it's
part.
only a little bite, but it's
especially if you're going to complain about the dark meat, you better get the white meat.
right. Exactly. So
Just pretty cool.
now Lady and Trotter were the two that I knew. Is everybody still on this planet? Because we haven't talked dogs in a while. I know you got the new dog.
Yep, Lady's still here. They're both sitting right here to my left. I'll bring them over before we wrap up to give a little hello. But she's 13. She's pretty old now. She didn't hunt last year. She's not hunting this year. Shoulders a little worn out. Little things that make you wish you'd have taken better care when they were young, like jumping off the tailgate. Oh, no big deal. Look at how cool she is. Now I'm like, shit, if I'd have lowered up that tailgate for 10 years, she might have had another year in her. But so she's retired. Trotter, he's 11, pushing 12 this year, and just an animal. It's amazing, Ron. He is the most fit dynamo dog I've ever met. You wouldn't think he outruns the 3-year-old.
Wow.
Now he can't deal with heat. If it's over 50, over 45, it's too much, but he just runs and runs and runs. Now he's getting a little older. If I try to do that 2 days in a row, that'll crack him. But my style is usually I got a day off, so I'm going to go for a 6 hour hunt and crush
You're not
everybody.
doing a 3-day hunt, so it kind of works out pretty good.
Right. We
Yeah.
did take him to, we did a PA trip this spring, and we rotated because we had some dogs, and because I'm not dumb. I know he can't last forever, but you watch him, it's amazing. And, talk about a finished mountain grouse dog. It took, it probably has been the last 5 years that he's been that solid, but it's just amazing. When his beeper goes off and you call him and he doesn't, you better start going that direction, because there's going to be a bird there.
If I look in my text string, because we have been yakking for 10 years.
Yeah.
If you don't send me at least 2 of those videos a year, I'm like, Mike, there's a bird on the ground, and you're so confident that you got your damn phone out. And yeah, that dog, I remember I've seen a handful of French Brittany's in the NAVDA system. And I was just telling somebody this the other day. I kind of distinctly remember, because we don't see a lot. And I remember seeing 3 of them the last year I judged. And every one of them reminded me of your dogs. They were just like fireballs, but precise.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, you're going too fast to hunt. And you're thinking, how does this little dog last going that fast? Because my cocker, it's a different kind of, you know what I mean? It's a restricted,
Yeah.
zigzaggy.
He's doing 400. I don't even see him anymore. Right. I put the gate down. I don't even see him. He considers a check-in, seeing me. He doesn't even look at me, but he's not hunting for him. He knows to wait. He's holding, he's not selfish. He's not ever busting a bird. It's just amazing. And he's a little non-conformational is the term. That's how I ended up actually getting him. He was a rescue, if you will, from a breeder who had a bunch of pups, where I got Lady from.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, she ended up with too many dogs. I think she had like 26 pups at one time. And he was a 6-month-old, but she had kept him as a stud dog, but he's a little tall and he's got a little deformation on his lip. So they were afraid he wasn't going to fit breed standards, because, you usually want a little squat, shorty guy with a stubby nose. And he ended up, that just an advantage for him, because he's light, he's fast, he almost built like a small American Brittany, if you will, and just lets him run big. And I think a lot of it's also the training of doing it every year for 11 years, excuse me, with that much mountain time. And it's been pretty amazing. It's so I'm living it up now. During COVID, we made sure we got a big trip into Wyoming. I was like, I got to get this dog all of the opportunity he can.
Oh, wow. How did that go?
It was awesome. Do-it-yourself trip. Went out near the Bighorns, and it was epic. I couldn't believe how well we nailed it. We got into all of the birds. We found a bunch of sage grouse. We found, which I thought were hard to find. We found hundreds of them. I'm not joking. And then we found all course blue. The ruffed grouse are so dumb out there. It's not even funny. Like, hey, look, guys, there's 5 of them sitting on the ground right there. Okay, you go this way. Let's let the dogs point them. Don't shoot them. Don't shoot them. Don't shoot them. It's crazy.
and the birds are just like,
yeah, the roughies were so dumb. I couldn't believe it. I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, wait, it never happened at home. And then we got into the Huns in the sage grouse country, and that was so cool. I couldn't believe it. It surprised us the first covey we got up, and then we just started trying to find the Huns the whole time. I think we all shot a sage grouse, and then we passed after that, because they are. I can see how their environment is getting impacted, and they're probably it's probably a boomer bust for them, big time. And so it was cool. What a great trip! What a cool state for bird hunting! Wow.
How did you I know you've traveled west before. That wasn't your first experience with Huns, was it?
Yeah, that was my first time seeing Huns.
Because I know you've hit the Dakotas before.
Yeah, we've hit the Dakotas, but we're usually East River. In like classic agriculture, we get a little bit of sharp tails, mainly just all pheasant, classic pheasant hunting. Yeah.
So how did you do on that covey rise of the Huns?
The first one, we got 2 birds.
You liar! You liar!
No, I'm not lying. I stepped right into them. They weren't pointed. I'll give it that.
Okay.
And I just stepped into them in this little river bottom, and I was shocked, and I just started shooting, and got knocked down 2. Actually, I got 1 there. We got 1 of the we relocated the other ones. Yeah.
Oh.
It was pretty cool. And then we just chased them. We figured out where they were. from what we could figure out. And there's so much country in Wyoming, you could barely. We left a week's worth of hunting just near our camp. You know, like if that's what you wanted to do, it's just so epic and so big, and you got to cover miles. But the walking's easy. Wow, I could not believe how easy it was to walk out there.
Yeah, you'd last day and night out there on that.
Yeah.
That
There's
is
no
not,
rocks. I mean, you see the exposed rocks, but there's no rocks on the ground. It's mainly just soil. The mountains are so young. There's
yeah.
not all this. It's not all been eroded like it is here. I think that's the thing. I love reading the stuff about chukar hunting and how hard it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks easy. We couldn't chukar hunt when we went because it was so hot. We went early
Yeah.
in like September, late September, just before elk opened.
Yeah.
And then when we tried to go down low to hunt chukars, or it was just way too hot. We couldn't hunt those, or the Sharpies. It was in the 90s or something. So we had to go way up on the hill, which is so neat out there. Whole dynamic though with those elk hunters and timing that. I think it would be hard to go like to where we went and try to do that same hunt a month later or 2 weeks later, because there was so many elk guys out there. It was crazy, just prepping for their season,
Yeah, that's almost kind of weird. It's almost like, is there a festival going on out here or something? Right?
Yeah, like
what? Is there this people chasing an ungulate? And
there was an RV in a pull behind trailer in every single spot you could possibly park one. No one was there yet, but it was going to be like that big concert out west here in a couple of days after we left.
Yeah. It's the Burning Man of Wyoming.
Totally. I was like, this is nuts. It's like such a remote spot, and there was an RV parked everywhere, or a pull behind me parked everywhere. Now they weren't there yet, thinking some bow hunters, which we pissed a few of them off, but sorry, buddy.
Yeah,
This is the hardest draw to get in the whole state of Wyoming. Well, you're only 100 yards from the road, man. And
right.
Maybe you should have yelled when we got a little closer. We would have so respected your space, but you got to self-identify.
I remember one of my first, I don't hunt by myself here a lot, but when I first got here, I hunted a lot on the way home from jobs. I always had my dog box in the truck, and coming across from Detroit or Flint or Lansing, I had little spots I could go and hunt for an hour or even a half an hour. And I remember that's kind of like a no-no here in Michigan in October, because the bow hunters will get out about 3:00 in the afternoon, right? Or 4:00. And I'm walking with my dog. My dog's out there, and I hear this guy go, "Bow hunter in the tree." And I'm from Illinois originally, right? I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" He wasn't trying to strike up a conversation with me. He was letting me know that I shouldn't be out there with my dog at 3 p.m. But hey, we got to, again, to your point, he was pretty close to where I parked my truck.
Yeah. Sorry, bud. It's public property. I mean, you try to respect him. I usually will not hunt over someone if I can tell what they are. Which is a funny story. We were hunting this Woodcock spot, and there was a Jeep parked there. And I was like, I wonder if that guy's hunting here. What is he doing? So I parked that truck. I went up to the window to look in to see, is it a deer hunter? Is it a dog hunter? Couldn't tell. Well, as I get really right up to the window, I noticed the window's cracked, and there's a dude in there taking a nap, getting ready to go hunting. And he's like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry." The reality is I'm trying to respect you, but I'm actually creeping on you right now. But
right.
Yeah. In Virginia, you got to just be respectful. We don't hunt a lot during gun season, although the areas I'm talking about, if you're willing to walk 4 miles off the trail, you're not going to see a gun hunter. There are some that get out there, but our gun season is only 10 days. Rifle season, only 2 weekends long, or 3 weekends and 2 full weeks. So it's pretty easy to avoid that or get out in the midday when it's not going to piss somebody off.
Right. When you going back to Wyoming and you're talking about the sage grouse, you were finding, and I've heard people, I found the hunts in North Dakota. Of course, there's a lot more hunts up in that part of North Dakota, and it's always in the ag land, but you can kind of pinpoint them as far as cover and corners and things like that. But you mentioned you were getting the hunts in the sage, but was it where the sage turned into something else, or was it just in the sage?
It was little pockets of grass in the sage.
Okay.
And little, either a promontory on a subtle ridge, or most of them were in or around a drainage. So they were on an old creek bed where the grasses kind of had grown up around there was still sage everywhere else.
Right.
And then, so when they flew to the sage, goodbye. Singles were very hard to pick up. And they fly a lot farther than a quail, like a lot farther.
Yeah. And they do this, well, depending on where you're at, they love to just clear a little knob, and then it's a guessing game. Did they go north, west, or you don't know? Because they will never just go over a hill and land down. They go over a hill and it's almost not worth chasing them unless you've hunted that one area a lot. I hunted with my buddy Tyler. The first year I got some shots and did hit some huns. So I shouldn't have called you a liar, because I actually did hit. I hit more.
I'll send you some pictures after we're done here.
I hit more huns the first time I hunted than I've hit since then, but he knew this area and he'd hunted them enough times, and he knew they were going to be like, all right, they're probably going to hook around this road and they're probably going to be by this old windmill. And then we flushed them out of there and they out of sight. He goes, they're probably going to be down by this edge of this cattail. And he was calling it, and I was like, well, that's kind of fun. A bird that you could, but to that sea of sage grouse, my God, or a sea of sage
sometimes
grouse.
It's hard to travel. We were lucky where we were. They were ranging cattle, so there was a lot of just trails. It was actually fairly easy to get through the sage. There's some elevation gain here and there that was a little weird, but really cool. Watching the dogs work. And I think the first group of sage we got up were like 20 birds in it. And we were just like mouth, jaws dropped. Somebody was like, pheasant. And I'm like, no.
No, those wingtips are not that fast when they get going.
Yeah. And we couldn't tell. And then we got, we were able to identify the boomers. One of our friends shot a real big one, which was really cool. But, they are kind of dumb too, which was interesting. But they were good runners. These ran, wow. It was almost rough on the bird dogs. One of my friends who went had a dog that he had trained to the flush or shot, and it was kind of a pain in the ass because it would not break. And it would be back there and he'd have to go get it. And we're like, nah, let's keep moving. Like, we got to go,
Right.
After a few days, we knew what they were doing. But it was fun to see them, and just, I hope I get the experience to go back out and just see them again. I'd love to get my dad out there one day. Because it's just a cool spot. The hunting's doable, but maybe next year. It's on my list to go back.
You're not going to drag your dad up into the George Washington.
No. He's good for it. We've done a couple this year. He got a shot over trotter, a pointed bird. Didn't work out for him, but 76, and he's still
I knew he was 10 years older than me. That's good for him.
Yeah, he's still doing. He went to our Pennsylvania grouse camp, which was kind of a bust because it was in the 70s the whole first couple weeks of the PA grouse season. So we found some birds, but at that temperature, the dogs and one of these days I'll learn not to get that bird hunting boner in the beginning of the year and just pace myself and go a little later.
Yeah, you mentioned something that I experienced this year. I think you said it was trotter who can run all day except when it hits a certain temperature. I found that out this year with my dog Tagus. So we're out in North Dakota. Wasn't the first week of Sharptail and Hun, be the second week. Because we're in an area that's like, look, we could take a chance that statistically the weather will be cooler, right? A week later. So let's try that. And we're not running into hunters. So the same birds we would have saw the week before are going to be there, right?
Yeah.
But that dog, I'm telling you, I could almost look at a lot of it depended on sunshine.
Yeah.
But if it was like, say, sunny and it hit above 55 degrees, he was not valuable.
Right.
He was valuable until he wanted water. When he wanted water, he wanted more water. His hunts and I'm like so mad at him. Never had a dog, and the year before I didn't hunt him in any heat, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, I wonder if he's got Lyme disease. I wonder. And no, this one day, my daughter Kelsey got to talk about family coming out. My daughter Kelsey hadn't hunted with me in years, and she's got now going to be a 3-year-old. She went with me to North Dakota last year. It was just father and daughter and some friends of ours. And we hit this one drizzly day. He didn't come in for water.
Yeah. all they need is a little water on the ground,
Yeah.
some puddles so they can lay. But you get a dry, hot day over 47, over 50, some dogs can't manage it.
Yeah,
My American Brittany, he's a little stronger, but even he'll get a little hot.
yeah.
Um,
But
my
Lady was Lady. He
she's a little better. She was tougher than Trotter, but
yeah.
both of them are a little bit, can get winded or get hot and bothered. But she was definitely tougher. His problem is he also runs like a madman.
Well, yeah.
And so he's all full gas. And I mean, he gets out of the truck at 11 and he's spinning in circles like a puppy, bouncing up and down, and you're like, dude, you've done this 300, 500 times. Like, come down.
Yeah. If there's one thing we could communicate, say, you could slow down a little bit, but it's not.
Well, I've been leashing him this last 2 years on a long walk in. It's something I actually picked up from you on that big hunt you did with Steve up into for the Blues. Because he'll blow himself out. If I know we're going to be out for 6-7 hours and he's going to end up doing 30 miles anyway. And that first 2 miles, I'll just leash him, get a good harness on him so he doesn't choke himself to death and just leash him up. And it's made a big difference. I was too stubborn to do that when I was younger because, he's good for it, but it's just a smart thing to do. And if you get a road flush, you better hit it without the dog,
Yeah. I was interviewing Jordan Hork a couple months ago, and I was asking him, I said, what's it like because I always think like, now I'm on my second cocker, right? My first one unfortunately died at 2. And so I got a replacement, and they're basically carbon copy type dog. I mean, I think their hunt's built into it. Of course, she's not steady. That's obedience. But I look at the speed she goes, and I'm like, there's just no, and I've never hunted her on sharp tails. You know what I'm saying? I took her out there. If we saw some in the road, I was going to let her flush them up just to get her nose in it and everything. But I kept thinking, how in the world can you, like he says, he goes to North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana with his cockers. I said, they would just run their feet off. And he says, well, no, 2 of them walk at heel while 1 of them hunts. And he just rotates them.
That's awesome.
And I said this on a Zoom room the other day. I said, it should be my goal. I've got 2 dogs that are 2 pointing dogs right now. I'm low on dogs, but and with him being not heat tolerant, but plenty of desire, and the other one, she's okay, probably more heat tolerant than him. Why don't I in the off season teach one to, just because it's not a flushing dog or a lab, why not have one have the composure to say, it's not my turn yet. Let that one go hunt, 15, 20 minutes, you can cover some ground with a dog.
Yeah.
Right? Call that dog in, give it some water, and let number 2 go.
Right.
I don't think I think I'm a better coach than player.
This is what you should do.
This is what you should do. But it kind of goes to what you're saying. If you know they're going to work that hard, if you tripped over a bird, oh, so what, right? But that he wasted or used a lot of the gas in his tank just getting to your spots in the mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way those spots are, you don't, most days I've rarely have a cover hop. This is not an option.
Right.
Those spots, that's the only spot anybody who uses Onyx goes to.
Right.
And we don't see that many pressure, but there are some bird hunters around, and awesome, good on them. I love seeing the folks get out there because that's going to get the word out to continue to try to improve habitat and try to improve access. But, it's just, you got to get on the ground and not rotate them. It's always a dream. I'll let him do it the morning, or him do an hour, him do an hour. And we do that when we go to South Dakota and when we do those style hunts. But
yeah, in Michigan, you can easily do that. You can rotate dogs. You make a loop, go back to the truck, rotate. It's easy. But in the mountains, you commit. That's
right,
it.
because it's 4 miles past that gate to the first cover.
Yeah.
Which it's been fun. So that's always a challenge, and kind of back to the whole mapping and the strategy and what dogs are ready to roll and all that good stuff. So
when we start talking about the mapping that you used to do, and of course Onyx is a sponsor of not only the podcast, but I don't know many people who don't use it.
Right.
Are they I don't know, can't say the last time I actually used Onyx on my phone in Virginia. in the mountains. Is there any new cuts that show up on that, or how are you using Onyx
yeah.
compared to your old Google Earth and how are you using it up there?
I use it a ton. What an awesome software, like, and I know there's some competitors out there and there's a lot of folks, the resources there, you can find a lot of those tools. But it's just convenient. I love being able to see the private property names and just understanding who's private, especially like when we go to PA, there's so much non-national forest public land.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a sleep. Some of the best hunts we found up there on like city water authority property. And, you do a little research to find out that it's legal, or a hunt or a timber company that's open to the public, but you can find that on Onyx. And just the convenience of downloading the maps and having it all on your phone so you can go offline, because we still don't get a lot of great cell coverage in the mountains here. So you better have your maps downloaded offline, or you're going to be in trouble. And I know a ton of guys who I will take occasionally or hunt with, and we'll get out there. I'm like, you got Onyx? Like, yeah. Oh, but I didn't download this map. I'm like, what the hell do you even have the software for? Like, that's the whole point, to be able to see where you are.
Right.
But it's pretty awesome. I was going to show you my Virginia. Oh, you probably can't see it, but
if you tilt it.
Oh, there's a lot of red spots.
Yeah, there it is.
There's a lot of red spots.
Holy wow.
Yeah, so I use it exclusively, share with friends, because scout. I got a few crazy buddies who are willing to do those dumb, 7-mile ridge hunts with me, or 10-mile ridge hunts, and so those folks, it's fun to scheme with them and share with different stuff out there. They do a good job. They've added some 3D topography, which is one of the things that Google had early, where you could actually flip the landscape. Because even though I'm okay with reading contour maps, and I theoretically went to school for that, it's hard to look at a contour and really understand exactly how the ridges lay and what your best strategy is. And then here, a really big difference is the aspect of the mountain that you're hunting. Southeast, you're going to find birds. North, maybe. Because the north, they don't get any growth, especially in your logging cuts. The cuts that are northern exposed, that are 20 years old, are gone. But you might still have good habitat in the southern exposed ones, because they get a lot more sunlight. They also, when we have some snow, which has been the last month, they're all on that south side of the mountain, or they're on that leeward side of the wind blow. So you get over that side of the ridge, and the birds tuck down in there and kind of hold there to get out of the wind. Now, they'll still cruise over the top of the ridge back and forth, or cruise those zones. So it's been it's a pretty cool software. And I use it probably almost 90% of the time. I'll still pull Google Earth up on the laptop, because it gives you that big fun view. And you can flip back through the age. I think we talked about this in previous ones. You can use you can flip back through the imagery over the years. So you can kind of validate what it looks like in 2010, because a lot of times the image you're seeing right now is kind of their best, highest resolution picture. It may or may not be the most recent. So if you can, and if you want to be like, when did they actually cut that? Because that's one of the things, those data layers that Onyx or you get from the Forest Service website, that was when they cleared, that's still just data. They may have actually cleared that cut to be cut in 2010, but they might not have cut it till 2012 because they didn't have the time. Or they may have shown this footprint for the cut, but they only cut 40% of that cut, or maybe they thinned it. That's the other weird thing now, is they're doing all this thinning. So you're like, oh, cool, that's a cut. And you go in there and it's a stand of pine trees that they've thinned. And you're like, it's really not that great for grouse. I mean, there's a little bit of roosting cover, but there's no food in there,
Right.
And the food's such a big thing for all bird hunting. I think that's something that took me probably my first 10 years to figure out, was to find the food source and to be where the food is, not just to like hunt covers per se, or hunt cuts or hunt spots. If it's a cut that doesn't have any food in it, big deal. There's a little stem density for habitat to live in, but there's not a lot of food,
Yeah, they might wander through there, but food is, especially with grouse, we check the crops, and then you see some grapes hanging, or you see some good greens on the ground. You're like, okay, this is definitely worth going. Yeah, you could go. I've gone into some, I would say, of course, you're going to find grouse in Aspen in Michigan, but you're going to find them more around the edges and around the disturbed stuff and around the creeks. But you can go into some of those areas and you start with like, there's nothing here. There's
Yeah.
there's like what happened in the weather that like there's no catkins on these trees, there's no greens on the ground, and then usually if you saw a bird, it was because it just happened to be passing through or something, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
We've had a couple really great acorn crop years, and in the Appalachians, acorn is a major food source for grouse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always surprised. I'll get a grouse, and there's two acorns the size of your pinky top in there. I mean, big ones. They'll
Yeah.
eat. They'll have a couple of acorns in there, and so that spreads the birds out a little more, makes them more sustainable long term because there's food more
Yeah.
spread out. But it's a little harder to hunt them because you're not going to find them. You know, there's this awesome legend in our area of hunt the grapes, hunt the grapes.
Right.
And that's
Yep.
true if they're there, but the grapes are just like the grapes they make for wine. Some years they don't make. Some years
Right.
they're laying on the ground and the birds aren't going to be there that year.
Yeah.
And they're only going to come in there to eat the grapes. They're not going to be there all day. You know, they're going to be there because there's no other habitat, you know.
Right.
So and that's kind of interesting to do, but they're definitely eat the grapes, you know. The more consistent one for us is greenbrier, your classic greenbrier. I think there's a little purple blue berry on it that is probably the most prevalent food source you'll find for grouse in the Appalachians.
And the worst stuff
Least
in the
in the
world
winter.
to try to go through.
Oh, it's terrible, but it doesn't get too bad because the dang deer browse it to the ground.
Oh, really?
Um,
I don't.
Oh yeah, they'll browse. They eat the actual like thorny, nasty green part down, and
Wow.
it'll be just trimmed some spots, so there are no greenbrier, and that's been tough. We've had a lot of growth in the deer population, good and bad. I guess good for the deer hunters, challenging for ticks. Ron, the ticks have gotten terrible here. There's a little warming. I don't want to get political on you on that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm not joking you. I took 300 ticks off of my dog the other day. I pulled ticks for 2.5, 3 hours. And I had two dogs down, and that's using a comb, and they're on the next guard and all that stuff, but they're just covered. Like,
Ooh.
because the deer are bad, it's getting to be warm. So you get this. It was the last week of January. We had a 60-degree day. I went out the next day. It was like 47. And the ticks, it was that day that I had those kind of tick numbers. It makes you not want to hunt because,
Yeah.
you know, these guys live inside on the bed. So if you have that many ticks, whether they're on next guard or not, you know, that's just a lot of ticks. And I should probably get a little more aggressive with a more aggressive collar, you know, a Seresto collar, something, whatever. Everybody always tells me what I should do, but it's like, you don't need it most of the time. They just need them on these little blooms when you get those hot days.
Right.
But they're good.
I
They're
will
good
say
up to
the Resto collar changed the hunting trip for me one time because I think you're right with everything's warmer. I don't know what we can call it whatever we want, but it's warmer, right?
Yeah.
And when I moved to Michigan right here at my house, I'm telling you, I could roll around the backyard in the woods. There wouldn't be a tick on me ever. And my dogs are in a little fenced in yard around here, and we're in sand mostly. And I'm picking ticks off my dogs just on a regular basis. So one here, one there. I pet them all of a sudden, and nope, there's a tick, and they're on everything. But yeah, last time I remember a couple times I hunted, I did not. Of course, it was colder, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ticks are a bitch. I mean,
Yeah.
and it does. I'm sorry, I could gut something. I could probably do a lot of things a lot of people couldn't do. And I get grossed out by them little bastards. You know?
Oh, they're nasty.
Oh God.
Those spidery things. But so that's just an issue. But I don't know how I got there from deer hunting, but that's how I got there. But it's been
we're talking about the greenbrier and
yeah,
then
the greenbrier browsing them down. And over in West Virginia, they're doing a nice job of doing some deer fencing around their cuts. You're probably familiar with that.
I've seen it in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yep.
And they're experimenting with that in a few spots, which is cool. So it gives those cuts a little more jump start on having some really dense habitat.
Yeah.
And they come in, either they pull them down. I've seen both. I've actually seen them pull them down and come in with a weed eater or a brusher and brush all the shit back down in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So I don't know if they do that they're planning to do that. I don't know all the intricacies of their management plan, but it's just nice, even if it's temporary, to give a little jump start to let that greenbrier get a little taller, because they're not going to eat it when it's real thick, but while it's young, they'll chew it down. There's sometimes you'll hunt and you'll just see this like knee deep patch of greenbrier because the deer just munch it down. It's still hard to walk through. Problem is it
Right.
doesn't fruit. When they do that to it, it doesn't fruit. So then the birds aren't as prevalent in there
Yeah.
eating the greenbrier berry. But there's a lot of food sources. It's kind of fun just nerding out on that. And I know most grouse hunters are probably the same way. I always look forward to looking at what they're eating when you get one, and
Yep.
seeing if you were in the right spot or if you just got lucky as heck.
Yeah. And then you look in there, and then all of a sudden it'll be some twig, like
Right.
a crop full of little bitty twigs.
Yeah. Like, are they eating the ends of this pine tree? Like, what the
I don't know
hell?
I know sometimes, like, well, that's not helping me. I can't identify that shit.
No.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's fun seeing the different stuff. Whether it's green crab apples, or sometimes I found one with a crop full of witch hazel, which was really neat to see. I know they eat that, but this one was completely packed with it. So he must have been lazy and not getting off his tree that day. But it's been fun to kind of get into that and use that as a reason to hunt. But with the acorns so strong, it's always like, well, they could be anywhere. Let's just go hunt,
Right. You might think there's no birds, and they're there. They're just not there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're spread. And that's the thing, I said it earlier. They're never going to not be grouse in Virginia and West Virginia. They're just not going to be this, painting or this story that you've heard about grouse hunting. They're going to be hard as hell to hunt, and they're going to be there.
Is there yeah, I know you follow the cuts and you find them, and you follow the hillsides, and all that makes total sense with snow cover and ice damage. Even like you said, a good ice storm can help a habitat by busting everything over and making cover. What about logging wise? Is there some active, is there still a piece of active logging around where you're hunting?
It's been rejuvenated a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it earlier. There's been a little spark since the 2010 and later. So there's some stuff coming online right now, about 10, 15 years old to 8 years. A lot of stuff from like the 14, 15. So that's nice. I talked to a forester the other day. They're starting to cut actively, which is cool. There's a little more resource for that. I'm sure Ben Jones talked about it when he was on. There's just not a lot of, there's so many dynamics to the timber industry here. We don't have the greatest timber because they've already logged it umpteen times on the East Coast. So
Yeah, right.
Thin soils, tough topography. It's the return on investment on that logging is just hard. So when money talks, that's a big difference there. But it's happening, so that's positive. And there's spots out there that I'm still going to be young enough to hunt. But I mixed it up this year. Like I said earlier, I probably hunted less cuts and more just natural habitat, and just trying to find random birds and
for the laurel, and looking for the right side of the hill, and
right side of a hill, or maybe some old cuts. Like probably, it's fun to find them here and there. And but there's only so many good new cuts or cuts that are 15 years old. So you only have, if you're going to hunt 45 days, and I don't hunt covers more than 1 or 2 times, especially if we get a bird there, I'm not going back.
Right.
And that that one's done. Now what, So that's what's tough.
Well, it helps having a dog that doesn't mind taking a 400-yard jaunt to help you find a bird.
Yeah. He's pretty money. That's a little long for him, but he's usually about 200 somewhere there, maybe
200 in the mountains. 200 in the mountains might as well be
too far
miles away,
Yeah.
But you hear
when
that
when it's up or down, it doesn't matter. I don't mind when he's like vertical up or down, but when he's ahead of me, that pisses me off. Just, it's not that he's gonna blow the bird. It's just like, well, you just took out all the excitement of the next 200 yards of walking, which is,
right.
Why am I even going out? Maybe I'll turn direction, but it's been a fun experience.
What made you go from the, I know you had the lady and trotter from the same kennel. Where did you find your, now you have everyone would call an American Brittany.
Yep.
Build wise, is it a bigger, smaller? You showed it to me.
He's about the same size. He's about 45 pounds. He's skinny as a mug right now because we hunted so hard, but he's about a normal. He's a little tall, I guess, for a Brittany, but he's skinny. Kind of just randomly got connected through bird dog world. Somebody knew somebody. My dad had a friend, and it was my dad wanted to get it for me. So you don't say no when somebody wants to gift you a bird dog. So definitely jumped on that. And I'll go back to French Brittany's again. But I had an American Brittany for my first dog, Prince, before I got Lady and Trotter. And American Brittany is what got me into hunting. My brother lived in Idaho, went to college there and had a Brittany way back. This was 25 years ago. That's how I got hooked on bird hunting, was hunting over a Brittany, just kind of scratch hunting on private, knocking on doors like you could do 25 years ago in Idaho, especially if you're a Marine in the ROTC program there, you could meet a lot of friends,
Oh yeah.
So my brother had some good connections and we did some fun hunting. So it's always been a Brittany person. The French, I kind of lucked into the French Brittany's just because I had an opportunity to find one in town. And I do like their demeanor a little better. I think they got a pretty consistently stronger prey drive. I've over the few American Brittany's I've hunted, I mean, I've probably hunted over 10, 12 other American Brittany's. They just seem to be a little more intense, which is funny because I always read on the forums about them being heel dogs. I would love for you to see my Brittany's. Like I don't even see them. Like,
right.
It's just interesting. But I guess I've seen that a little bit, but not really. And so they've just been a great dog, and then a family dog too, because they live in our house, and they're we're definitely one sitting over here on the couch across from me. So they're.
Yeah, and you live right.
And my daughter just got a French Brittany pup, so I'm back in the game of French Brittany. So
nice.
Yeah,
now you still live right in town, right?
Yeah, right in downtown Harrisonburg, which is pretty convenient. We're only 30 minutes to the mountains, 45 minutes to West Virginia, and then there's public land right there. And there's a lot of good spots to hunt within a couple 3 hours if you're willing to drive that far. But you can also drive 30 minutes and find a grouse in Harrisonburg. Yeah.
Is there any I know the Parkway, you can't, on the Blue Ridge Parkway, you can't hunt, but is there any public land on the east side of the valley too? Is there?
Massanutten Mountain Range, really rocky, 65-mile mountain with a bunch of little sub ridges. Used to be a pretty prolific grouse hunting spot for people. I hear a lot of old timers talk about it. Mm-hmm. And there are still birds there. I've seen them this year. I actually did one hunt up there and saw a bird. That was one of those 6-mile one bird days. But it's a win.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's nice. And then south of where the national park ends, Shenandoah National Park, you pick up a lot of national forest down through southwest of Charlottesville, southwest of Lynchburg. Haven't hunted that a ton. Guarantee you there's birds there. Same theory as I was talking about before. You're not going to eliminate them. Now, are there huntable populations where you're going to go out with 3 friends and find some birds? Hell no. That's what people always want to go for a hunt with 2 or 3 people. I'm like, guys, we can't. No, one, maybe 2 in the group. 3 people is the most you can hunt with in the Appalachians. It's just too steep. It's too hard. You remember with me, you and Chip, it was kind of hard because who's going high? Who's going low? How do we keep track of each other?
Who's staying on the trail?
Who gets the road job? Yeah.
Chip raises hand.
You always need that, Ron. That is the most important position, period.
Oh,
like when I go hunting with a wingman, I just say, stay where you can shoot. Don't worry about anything else. Yep. Like if you got to get a shot. And if you're beating the bushes or falling over sideways, you're not going to get a shot.
Oh yeah. If both of you are in the shit tangle.
No point. Yeah.
There's no point. No, a couple that I've gotten there too were when some of the younger guys that hunted with me were the birds that thought they got away from them and they were already just gliding in, right? And then
perfect timing.
Easy shot. Yep. Have you been back to the East Coast on the military camps or anything in military base with your brother?
I have not. No, my brother, he retired. So that was an awesome opportunity to hunt on Camp Lejeune. Did that for about 6 years and running quail and woodcock camp, if you will, and would love to ever have a chance to do that again. I don't even know how that has probably changed in the 10 years since we've done it, but what a cool experience that is. And just that, there weren't that many quail per se, but we'd find a covey or 2 a day, and there was plenty of woodcock to keep it interesting.
Yeah. I got to show you a book. And this, when I got a hold of you, it was probably after you sent me a picture of some grouse that you shot. And I said, Mike, let's get back on and catch up. Because otherwise, next time I get to the valley, could be a year and I won't see you, depending on schedule.
Yeah. Maybe a dove hunt.
When I saw this, I said, I got to put it behind me. Can you read the title of that?
Oh, that is so cool.
I am going to dive into this book. It's called Hunting and Fishing Military Lands. And it's got every base. Now it's an old book. I don't know if it's going to be reprinted, but I'll bet you half of it's got to still be good. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the access is probably even more digital. You can probably look it up online a lot easier and figure it out.
exactly. But it goes state to state with every military base. I'm like, that might be the next Onyx for me right there.
Totally. It's just secret covers, and that's what I think you gotta be willing to work for and dig for, is just find a special relationship or a special spot.
Yeah.
Something that's unique to you. Maybe you know a person. One of the secrets here in Virginia are the bear hunters. Wow,
Yeah.
we have bear hunting
Yeah.
is crazy here, but
Yeah.
you're nice to them. They will share so much info and intel. Sometimes it makes it's bullshit because they just want to tell you they saw something,
Right.
but
Oh,
it's still great.
I had my worst one was a guy that was on the same job site and his brother had bear dogs. And if I explained you where this was, it was in the valley floor, but it was like right where the mountains come up, and it was north of town, north of Bridgewater, up that way.
Okay.
Not too far though. And he goes, "Oh yeah, this is unbelievable. There's grouse everywhere." Of course, that's enough for me to go like, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah, I'm gone.
I get there, and like, first of all, there isn't a respectful grouse in the world that would live in this spot. I don't know. He said his brother saw him.
Yeah.
It could have
And I'm
been.
sure he did, but those guys drive 30 miles in a day chasing bears around, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, you saw 6 birds on a 30-mile drive. That doesn't really
Right.
help me.
And he goes, his brother says, "Where is it? I got a buddy on the job site." He goes, "Well, you know that trail." But they literally turned it into a fact. It's not. But anyway, yeah, I got to dive into this book. In fact, I should try to get the author, see if he's still alive, because I think that's everybody's struggling, like not struggling, but it's not like there's more places to hunt all the time. And
Right.
it's probably an underused resource.
It might be closer to you than you think. Like that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is they're out there, they're little public spots, kind of like what I was talking about with PA and the different municipalities that own land. Like there's a lot of opportunity out there if you're willing to do a little legwork or ask a little question here and there.
Well, Michael, it's been great catching up, man. I don't know. You're still the you shoot more grouse than most grouse hunters do. Now, I don't mean the grouse hunters in Michigan that hunt 45 days a year. They probably get more grouse than you
Oh,
do.
I'm sure they better.
But the grouse hunters who hunt every weekend all over Michigan usually don't see as many grouse as you do. And that partly it's your dogs, it's your legs, it's your desire. But yeah, you're kind of at some point you'll be that guy that writes that book. I think.
Maybe.
I
There's
think.
a lot of scouting. We didn't talk about all the mountain biking I do all summer and spring on all
Are
those
you
mountain
still
bike
doing that?
trails. Oh yeah, I'm crazy.
Because I remember you told me when you were mountain biking, and I don't want to say it was before you hunted because it wasn't before you hunted, but you were seeing grouse while you were mountain biking.
Oh, tons. Yeah. And then you can hear them drumming because if you're
Yeah.
out in the spring, you can get a cue there. So if you stop and have a snack or
Yeah.
often stop in an area I'm curious about and just sit there for 5 minutes and eat a bar or drink a drink or something. And
Yeah.
and then I'm pretty involved with the mountain bike community. I got a lot of friends. So I got spies, Ron. I got spies everywhere. They'll come back. I can't tell you how many times I get friends come back and say, "Oh, I saw a bird on this trail." And they're not like the bear hunters. They're going to tell you exactly the truth.
Right.
And you're going to be like, okay, well, that reinforces XYZ, or it might be worth driving or taking a hunt out there one day. And
And let's be honest, most mountain bikers aren't drinking beer.
no, maybe afterwards, but not while they're riding.
Yeah, but where the difference is when you're drinking a beer and bear hunting, scouting, different perspective.
That's true. Well, it's been awesome catching up. Hope people are, interested in still hunting around here. It's intimidating, but it's also something that can be really rewarding for folks if they get out and do it. And especially if the expectation is to have a good time in the mountains and not shoot and kill birds,
It's just getting out,
getting out. If you see a bird, win. If you shoot at a bird, even better,
And then you always have those trips or those weekends that, are all the icing on the year.
Yeah. It's one or two a year that make it for you. And that's the best,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully I've got, my house at, Bear Mountain and, in
Bear Mountain. Yep.
cave, we turned that into an Airbnb. I think I might have told you that on the phone when we talked last
Yep.
year. And I've been wanting to come down there. I was not to go grouse hunting, but I need to get a few chores done there. And we had somebody rent it the end of December, but we found out they rented it because they had some roof damage on their house, and it turned into a 6-week rental. Then it turned into a 2-month rental, and now they're not going to leave until the 30th of April.
Wow. Long term.
So I won't. I can tell you this: I'll be down there in May, and I'll give you a holler. And I want to come to your yoga studio.
Do it. Yeah. Come on to
Because
visit us.
I don't know how many of my listeners live there and have listened to this. I know I've steered a lot of people to our old episodes because you do talk without, I don't want to say without, like when you say those things about the south facing hillsides and stuff, when you're going to hunt birds in an area like that, you've got to use that strategy. And I have told people to do it. They've listened to your podcast. I think even at one point, one of them got a hold of you, but here's a good way. If you want to go grouse hunt in Virginia, you go to Mike's yoga studio, right?
Yeah.
Come in there, non-assuming, put the sweat on a couple times, and then like on your third class, wear an RGS t-shirt. And
There
then
you go.
Mike will go, oh,
Hey.
and
I literally am sitting at the desk checking people in with Onyx and Google up almost every morning. Just where am I going to hunt after this class? I'm not joking. I've shown so many people who are like, I don't care about your mountain, but fun. But yeah, Yoga Soul. That's our business. SOL, like the sun. Yoga Soul.
Yoga Soul, like the Mexican beer, Soul.
That's right.
So well, I told you I might need a block, and I might need, as that one guy at Bikram told me, he says, no props, no props. I'm like, well, you know what? You're not 68 years old. So I'll use if you let me use a few props, I'll hit your yoga class.
Heck yeah. We've got some variety too of options. So we'll talk when you get close back in here.
But then I'll make you put a gi on, and you got to roll on the mat and jujitsu with me.
All right. I'll try.
All right.
I'm in the, I'll have to, you'd be easy on me though.
All right. You go easy on me in yoga. Go easy on you in the mat.
Love it.
All right. See you, Mike.
All right, Ron. Thanks, buddy.
Great catching up, buddy. See ya.
Yes, sir. Yep.